Previously on the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
I think that brings us, Chris, to what we're going to be reading for next month.
Okay, right. So we're going to be going for something else that's out of print. Sorry. However, it is, I believe, available in another format. We're going to be going to the Benny Adventures. And,
fun. We
are going to be going to an author who was not particularly prolific, but is one of my favourites.
Okay.
Matt, we're going to be going Beyond the Sun, which is Matt Jones's Benny Adventure. It's the third book in the New Adventures.
Okay.
Of Bernice Summerfield. So, So next month is Beyond the Sun.
And now our story continues.
Welcome, everyone, to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. How's it going, Matt?
Going pretty well. It's kind of back to school in the air, so, with September and stuff, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. what could go wrong?
How have you been?
Yeah, all right. So I can't remember, actually said on the podcast that I'm training again for another marathon. But I'm training again for another marathon. I'm training for the London Marathon. And I hope I will finish ahead of any Daleks that are running this year. So I did a half marathon last weekend and I finished ahead of Indiana Jones. I was so proud. But it was quite hot. So I think the fancy dress people will not be doing stuff. Doing their stuff in the heat.
Are you going to be wearing any costumes this year?
No, I will just be wearing a vest and shorts and shoes and socks and, just trying to complete the thing. Yes.
Wow. And when is that usually held?
Usually it's held in April, around about Easter time. But this year, because there's been a pandemic, it is being held the first Sunday in October.
Maybe it'll be slightly cooler than...
Potentially. Sometimes we do have... There was one year where early October it was kind of like 30 degrees C, which is, I think that's like, yeah. Wow. We're hopefully it's not going to be that, because that's going to be bad. Mm-hmm. So... Anyway, right.
Good luck with that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I don't think I'm going to do this again, but I seem to remember saying that last time, but I really don't think I'm going to do this again.
We have a couple of book-related items.
Yes, let's get away from running talk, yes.
So in September, there's going to be a Doctor Who Atlas published, which includes a foreword by Rachel Talalay. And it has 30 maps and character profiles of companions and monsters. So we've tweeted out a couple of illustrations from it, but that looks rather exciting and fun.
Cool.
And then that's going to be followed up with the 2022 Doctor Who Annual, which is notable because Jodie Whittaker is not on the cover, controversially, as well as an audio called Doctor Who The Ashes of Eternity, which is by Neil Bushnell and features the Ninth Doctor and Rose. So, got a couple of interesting Who-related items coming out in the near future.
Yeah.
And the Ashes of Eternity is read by Ajoa Ando.
Yeah. I do hope that we might get some more 13th Doctor novels before the Doctor regenerates, but I don't know if we will.
Yeah, that would be fantastic, especially if they're set in that gap between series 12 and 13, where the Doctor and Yaz have been traveling on their own for a while. That would be really fun.
Yeah, that would be good.
And at some point next month, we'll have new Doctor Who on our screens.
Yes, yeah. Well, they could wait until November.
True.
Unless they've actually said it's October, but yeah.
Yeah, I've heard this fall, so sometime.
Yeah, sometime. And we don't even know at the moment, I don't think, whether it's going to be Sundays or not.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if it returns to a Saturday evening slot. Who knows? Maybe they'll put it weeknights opposite Corey.
Yeah. Well, EastEnders, I understand EastEnders is not doing so well on the ratings, so maybe it might be in just before EastEnders to give it a boost. So, anyway.
Well, so this month we are reading Beyond the Sun
Yes.
by Matthew Jones,
Yep.
which is a Bernice Summerfield adventure. But before we do that, let's go through show and tell.
Yeah. So what have you got for show and tell, Matt?
So this past month, I've listened to a new BBC audio, and this one is Bessie Come Home by Paul Mars. And it was a lot of fun. It's a kind of a first-person narrated 80-minute adventure, and it stars Stephanie Cole, who plays Bessie. Stephanie Cole, speaking of Coronation Street, fans might remember she played Roy's mom on that show. But this is part of the Beyond the Doctor series, and we meet Bessie when she's 111 years old, and she's in a junkyard being restored by a Mr. Foreman, who is the descendant of I.M. Foreman.
Okay.
And I highly recommend it. It's sad and wonderful and poignant and feels very Paul Mars. And Bessie gains sentience after the Doctor hooks her up to the TARDIS Council between Spearhead from Space and the Silurians. So it's kind of explained in universe that way. But definitely worth checking out if you're training for a marathon and need something to listen to. But I would recommend it.
Yes. Yeah. Cool.
How about yourself?
So, I've got something that is both audio and visual. Pip Madeley, who is a regular tweeter on all matters Doctor Who, has moved, I think due to Twitter changes of policy, most of his videos onto YouTube, and he's brought various classics like 10 Reasons to Like Timelash, and also What Are the Movellans Watching Today, and Kato Mara, Satisfaction Guaranteed. There's lots of just lovely, wonderful, crazy stuff. And all of them Doctor Who related. He's also got, I'm just looking here, I haven't watched that one, Doctor Who The Cleese commentaries. They're very silly, but they are great fun. Definitely worth a watch, I would say.
And I think he has been a contributor to Doctor Who magazine in recent years as well.
Yes, yeah. The thing that I would particularly recommend would be the Singing Cyberman video.
Okay. I don't know that I've seen that one yet, but I will check that out. That sounds intriguing.
That is, yes. If you are watching that on your headphones, sitting in amongst other people, they may start looking at you strangely. But it's hysterical. So if you search for Pip Madeley on Pip Madeley YouTube, and Madeley spelled Madeley, then you can discover this treasure trove of wonderful Doctor Who silliness.
Excellent.
Right.
This brings us to our book selection for this month.
Yes.
Which is
by another Doctor Who magazine contributor of the past.
That's right, Matt Jones. Yeah.
Yes.
Should we talk a little bit about Matt Jones?
Yes. Yeah, let's. So, because he first crossed my radar with his column on Doctor Who magazine. And it was sort of like a wonderful series of columns of just life as a fan. And it was him and his boyfriend and their interactions with Doctor Who. And it was part of when Doctor Who magazine was trying to show more of the fan experience in about like 96, 97. And I'm saying I just loved his columns. I thought they were really, really good and really honest. And it was just somebody speaking very truthfully. Yeah, fantastic columns. But anyway, what else has he written? He wrote Bad Therapy, one of the new adventures. And he also has written, I think he wrote an episode of Torchwood, and he wrote possibly one of my favourite David Tennant stories, the Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit.
Very spooky story.
Yes.
Very creepy, and features the return of I'm blanking on the actor's name who plays Sutek.
Yes, as am I. It's Gabriel something, isn't it?
Gabriel Wolf, maybe?
Yes, that's it. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and the Torchwood episode he wrote was Dead Men Walking from season 2. Mm-hmm. And Matt Jones has also written for the 2012 version of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. Mm-hmm. And he's also a staff writer on Corey. Back in the 1998 season, he did 44 episodes of that series before becoming a script editor on Russell T Davies' Queer as Folk in 1999. And then he's also been an executive producer on both Skins and Shameless.
So potential showrunner material then?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's not a name you hear, but you're kind of like, yeah. Yeah.
Definitely has some producing experience and writing
Yes.
experience. So potentially, yeah, that would be really interesting if that were the case. And the title of this book, well, first I should say, when I picked up this book off my shelf, a receipt fell out of it, which shows that I purchased it on August 3rd, 1997, at the tender age of 17, in Blaine, Minnesota, along with Dragon's Wrath, and I paid $5.95 for this particular title, which I probably has appreciated a fair amount since then.
Yes. A sound investment, I suspect. Yes.
But yeah, I got that at the same time as Dragon's Wrath, which I did go ahead and read that in between picks here, and also listen to the audio adaptation, which features Gary Russell in a great role.
Okay.
And I was a little surprised in Dragon's Wrath that there weren't any references or characters carrying over from Oh No It Isn't. I was expecting some of like the same professors and faculty to show up.
No.
I guess when I think about like the Benny series as a whole, now that I've read the first 3 books in it, I was hoping for more of like a wacky Della professors and students vibe carrying over from book to book, but they seem to very much, Della seems to be like a backdrop. It's like, how quickly can we get Benny away from the university for an adventure?
Yeah, that does change.
Okay.
It's not the same for every book. Yes.
And in Dragon's Wrath, there were some really good scenes with Irving Braxiatel kind of alluding to broader things in the Hooniverse, and Benny meeting him out of order, but that character was dropped from the abridged audio. And then Beyond the Sun was actually the second audio after Oh No It Isn't that Big Finish decided to adapt. They had kind of punted on Dragon's Wrath, and that ended up being the 6th in their kind of first season about Benny. And Matt Jones did his own audio adaptation of Beyond the Sun. And it was the only play out of the first season of 6 not to be adapted by Jacqueline Rayner. And it guest stars Sophie Aldred as Iranda, or renamed Miranda in the audio, and Annika Wills as Kitzinger, which are some characters we're going to meet shortly. And then it also collapses Leon and Michael into a single character. For the longest time, you couldn't get that first season of Benny audios at all. They were out of print. But recently, Big Finish has released them as a season bundle, so you get 6 stories for $20, which it's fascinating to listen to just from a production standpoint, because this was Big Finish's first season of anything. You know, thinking about how far they've come since then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was one of those original subscribers, so I have one of the exclusive Buried Treasure CDs that are so sought after these days. But anyway, enough about the audio.
Yes.
But the book itself, the title is a nod to an early William Hartnell alternate story title. So The Edge of Destruction is sometimes referred to as Inside the Spaceship or Brink of Disaster. According to DWM, and I'm quoting from issue 331 here, for those following along. The Edge of Destruction, I guess, was often wrongly referred to as Beyond the Sun, which was actually a working title for the Daleks serial.
Oh, I have heard another theory.
Okay.
Is that Beyond the Sun, unless I'm confusing this with the Malcolm Hulke thing, but that Beyond the Sun was a separate story that was also being considered for the 3rd serial of a planet on the other side of the sun.
Oh, like a...
and it would have been like in a fixed orbit to
yeah.
Earth's. Yeah.
There was I'm blanking on the name of the movie, but there's a movie starring Patrick McGowan that takes place... Oh, no, never mind. I'm conflating Ice Station Zebra with another movie.
Oh, okay. Yes, Ice Station Zebra is very much set on Earth.
Journey to the Far Side of the Sun, which is from 1969, okay. But it has that same sort of concept where there's another Earth like on an opposite orbit from us that we can never see.
Sure. But yeah, and also as well, there was a Malcolm Hulke story that might have been but I think it was possibly a DWM hoax. That also had the name Beyond the Sun. So people were, I think generally, when this book originally came out, were quite pleased that Beyond the Sun had been finally taken off the board.
As an actual title, yeah.
Yes.
Kind of like The Doctor's Wife.
Ah, yes, The Doctor's Wife, yes. The Enemy Within as well. But The Enemy Within hasn't actually ever been properly taken, though it was the working title for the Doctor Who TV movie.
This fits really well as a September pick because it very much has like a back-to-school vibe with Benny taking her students on a...
Yes. That wasn't my intention, but yes.
And the cover is very stark and evocative. It's an illustration by Mark Solwowski, and it depicts two people with shaved heads in gray jumpsuits on an alien planet's surface, and they appear to be kind of gasping for air with what looks like the Fortress of Solitude behind them, and a red sun supergiant hanging in the sky. And there are 25 titled chapters and 7 unnumbered conversations with the enemy chapters sprinkled in. And it ends with some diary extracts from Benny as an epilogue, which is titled "I Would Tell My Dad" in French. And the book takes place in the year 2593, like most of the other Bennies of that era. So shall we...
Yeah, let's begin. So Benny is supervising 2 first-year archaeology students, Emil Marr-Smith and Tamika Vito, on a field trip to the Shalonian Digs on Apollo X4 when a figure from her past appears. And this is where we have our reading this month, really early doors. And our reading is done by Joe Bell. And so should we have a listen, Matt?
Yeah, let's...
A figure was approaching along one of the muddy trenches between the 2 digs. He was tall and loped a little as he walked. He wore a heavy dark overcoat with the collar turned up against the rain. The bottom of the coat was splashed with mud. Tamika failed to find anything remarkable or threatening about him at all. Nothing that might have created such a reaction in Bernice. His hair was an unremarkable dirty blonde and he was unshaven. He was attractive in a traditional sort of way. Laddish. Not her sort of bloke at all. Well, she thought, grinning to herself, he wasn't purple to start with. This man was frowning against the weather and was clearly looking for someone. He stopped and asked a couple of cagouled diggers who were dragging a wheelbarrow of soil towards a spoil heap. In their baggy pink and orange outfits, the diggers looked like giant jelly babies. One of them pointed over towards a St. Oscar's site, and then they continued to drag the wheelbarrow along the narrow path. "Bugger!" Bernice exclaimed again as the man headed towards them. Tamika stared in astonishment at her tutor. Bernice had climbed out of her cagoule and was tucking her denim shirt into her combat trousers. "Trouble?" Tamika asked. "Big trouble," Bernice growled. Tamika had never seen Bernice so rattled. "Who is he?" The man had seen them now and was hurrying over, waving a little self-consciously. Tamika looked around for something to hit him with. The best she could come up with was a muddy trowel. "Should I run and get someone?" Emil piped up fearfully. "Like who?" Tamika snapped. There weren't any security guards or police at the site. Tamika knew that the tutors and professors kept an eye on the more raucous students, taking it in turns to drink in the bars where the trouble occasionally erupted. She turned to Bernice. "Is he dangerous?" "Dangerous?" Bernice asked herself rhetorically as the man approached. He came to an awkward stop at the lip of the dig. She looked up at him, squinting against the greasy rain. "Is he dangerous?" she repeated, this time for the man's benefit. She made a show of considering this. "You could say that, Tamika." "Hello, Benny," the man ventured. There was a cautious tone in his voice. "Benny?" Tamika had never heard Bernice called this before. Bernice ignored the man and turned to Tamika. "This is Jason Kane, as in Kane Summerfield. He's my husband, that is, my ex-husband." This was the last thing Tamika had been expecting to hear. She didn't even know that Bernice was married. "Oh, hello," she managed. "Nice to meet you." "Well, I wouldn't jump to any conclusions on that score, Tamika," Bernice muttered and introduced Emil, who was staring up at the newcomer and smiling openly. She turned back to her ex-husband. "So, what can I do for you? Money, I suppose? Or have you just travelled 600 years and God knows how many parsecs to humiliate me again?" Man, Jason, frowned at the bitterness in her tone. Tamika had never heard Bernice so angry. It was a shock to see her so tense, so obviously out of control. "A chat. In private. Please, Benny, it's important." Bernice sighed. "You'll have to be quick. I've got a pipe full of fossilised excrement to excavate, and as appealing as you are, if it's a choice between spending time with you or digging up an ancient toilet, I'm afraid the toilet wins. Every time."
Thank you so much, Joe, for reading that.
Yes, yeah, and Joe runs a Facebook thing called Write to Thrive, which is where you can have writing prompts, and it's kind of like a mixture of writing prompts and mindfulness, and it's really cool. So thank you very much, Joe, for doing that.
Yeah, and we'll include a link to that in the episode notes.
Yes. So as you've heard, Jason Kane has shown up, who's Benny's ex-husband. Yeah, and he's claiming to be in trouble, and he's also got a figurine of a young woman, which he believes is the key to an ancient weapon of enormous power. Benny dismisses his claims as ludicrous, but still spends the night with him. And the next morning, he's kidnapped from his hotel room, quite spectacularly. And before she can report his disappearance, Benny's arrested by galactic security troopers who believe that Jason has passed encrypted data regarding his arms smuggling operation to Benny. But the artifact, though, doesn't actually have any encrypted data on it. And so they're forced to return it to Benny and release her. And they refuse to investigate Jason's disappearance, believing that he's fled of his own accord. And all their best information indicates that Jason and his female accomplice were searching for an ancient weapon with powers beyond that of a sun. So it's an intriguing start, isn't it?
And I think this is my first introduction to Jason Kane.
Okay.
Because I don't know that I've read any new adventures that he appears in. I've certainly heard like the previous iteration of the show, recap like happy endings and novels like that. But I think this is the actual first like book I've read with Jason in it properly. Like I've heard him on different Big Finish audios and stuff before. But I thought the narrative did a good job of giving some backstory to him and, enough where I was able to follow. Why Benny's very irritated with him.
Yes. Yeah.
The dig site there at the Chelonians were first introduced in The Highest Science, and they've been mentioned on screen in the Pandorica Opens, and they're kind of militant turtles. In this section, too, we also get a reference to an art thief called Cat's Paw, which there are a couple references to this art thief throughout the novel. And so I looked Cat's Paw up, and it turns out that this is a throw-forward reference to a character that appears in a later Benny novel.
Okay.
A Dave Stone book.
Right, okay, cool.
And they mention Bubble Jack a few times, which I think is a common beverage in the Hooniverse, kind of like Kronk burgers in DWM, which have been mentioned in the show. And then those references to Bubble Jack in the audio are replaced as Gumblejack fish. So, which I think the Sixth Doctor mentions in...
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say that's the Sixth Doctor thing. So, yeah.
And then there are quite a few, shall we say, excrement-related jokes.
Yes!
in this section. I have expected Benny to start going on about Gillian McKeith at some point.
Yes. I don't know if she was a thing in 1997. I don't know.
And it's interesting that Jason mentions that Benny last left him 600 years away. So I don't know if Jason time traveled or Benny time traveled or...
I think that's a reference to Eternity Weeps.
Okay.
Which is a Seventh Doctor New Adventure in which I believe they both appear. So it's a Jim Mortimer one. I think that's what's a reference to.
So Benny, at this point, she's very convinced that Jason is in real trouble, and she looks at this artifact from an archaeological perspective and determines that it comes from the prohibited world of Ursu. And this, I thought, was really interesting and kind of prescient on Matt Jones's part, because Benny has to decide whether or not she wants to use a month's worth of salary to buy the info they need to proceed. So it's kind of like the whole concept of information as a commodity behind a paywall.
Yeah.
Which was a kind of, I was like, oh, we would deal with that today.
Yes.
And Benny also mentions the Butler Project, which I think is likely an allusion to the Butler Institute, which was mentioned in a couple of the Virgin New Adventures and is also referenced in the television story The Poison Sky.
Yeah. Well, it pops up in Andrew Cartmell's Warhead sort of like trilogy, and so it is nice. All these various kind of like bits of like the interconnected universe stuff that, like, if this was your first ever Benny book or first ever New Adventure book, it's fine. I don't think you'd get thrown by it. But yeah, if you've read a few of them, you just go, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, kind of cements this in the Doctor Who universe with all the aliens and species and past adventures that are referenced or hinted at.
Yeah.
So Benny, at this point, she hires a pilot to take Tamika and Emil back to Della and St. Oscar's, but they stop off in the Ursu system which is kind of in between where her dig site is and the home planet, to do a quick scan. And this planet is prohibited, so it's kind of quarantined off, and other ships are not allowed to land on it. And so when they arrive in the system, they are immediately attacked by unmarked black ships, and they're kind of in like a junk freighter, which doesn't have any weapons or armament and is quickly overpowered. So their ship is going to be shot down and is going to crash, and they're forced to evacuate, and they don't have enough escape pods. And so there's a whole, sequence of them trying to get off the ship, and their pilot, whose name is Errol, is seriously injured. Benny survives the crash.
Fortunately enough.
And her two students were given the escape pod, and they land kind of in a lake near a quiet village where they're rescued by this very charming young man named Scott, who kind of has the nickname Dragon Boy because he's covered in scales. And we should mention that this planet of Ursu, their population has grown in these alien constructs that are called blooms, which function similar to like the looms on Gallifrey in a way. And you have these people born in pods of 8. And they're interconnected and can hear, not super telepathic, but it seems like there's some sort of like mental connection between them. And they're a mixture of several different species that have settled the world. So in a pod of 8, you'll have some humans, you'll have some other alien species, none of which are native to this planet themselves. They've all settled there, over time. But it's an interesting way to set up a society because it gets them away from having parents or, being born into a certain privileged position. So it's an interesting sci-fi concept that they're kind of working with here. It's just the whole no rules in a society and how that is almost like an ultra-libertarian. It's like, it could maybe work well for a few weeks, and then...
Yes.
When people don't want to start doing the really nasty jobs, then it's like, okay, you might have to rethink your society.
Yeah.
So Scott is part of this pod of 8, although his pod had 10 people in it, not 8, which we find out later. And there's this occupying force that has slaughtered half of the planet's population called the Sunless. And they were in those unmarked black ships that had shot down Benny's ship. And the Ursulans, so the conglomeration of these different species, they were once free to do as they pleased, having set up their society to get away from profiteering and capitalism of the various galactic corporations that dominate Doctor Who around this time. But the Sunless have stolen the blooms from their planet. So the genetic pods from which, the population of Ursu has grown. And without the blooms, the society is doomed because they've built their whole structure around being born half-grown in these looms. And we get a kind of an interesting sequence of that at the beginning where there's I don't know if you'd call her a midwife.
Yeah.
Kitzinger, whole sequence where she swims down. These pods are like in this like liquid oxygen atmosphere, and it's kind of a cool sci-fi scene as we're introduced to their culture.
And also as well, like the Sunless, they're imposing kind of like lots of restrictions, and they're forcing kind of like dress codes on the people of Ursu. Yeah, there's one thing. Yeah, so I imagine because when it was being written in like 1997, maybe Matt was thinking of like North Korea and things like that. But certainly for me, I was just thinking of the Taliban with the Sunless. But I think also because I was reading some of this in August, just letting you behind the magic here, folks. And so it felt, yeah.
Those same parallels kind of stuck out to me too. They seem very similar.
Yeah.
And then physically, they kind of look like the future kind from Utopia, where they have black eyes and sharpened teeth, to the point where I almost wondered if like RTD was like, oh, we'll use the Sunless as kind of like those characters from Utopia, because they're very similar.
Yeah, this is what it's like. Yeah, was Utopia in the season that Matt Jones wrote?
The season after.
Oh, season after, yeah. Okay. But yeah, so realising that the Sunless are closing in on the village and that Errol needs medical attention to survive, Scott agrees to take the visitors to the nearest city where they seek shelter with his brother Michael.
The alien names were...
a bit terrible?
I appreciate that they're very easy to pronounce, but
Yes.
it is kind of like, oh, this dragon-like creature's name is Scott, or his brother who has like white feathers and is like half bird-like, his name is Michael, and it was just very just kind of funny.
Yes, yeah. But also, I guess it just shows that these are people from intergalactic civilizations that have just chosen to kind of go and live this lifestyle. But yeah, it is when one of the main alien figures is someone called Scott. You're like, oh, okay. Fine. But yeah, so as we were saying, that due to a discrepancy in their birth, because this particular family, rather than being 8, was 10, there's some genetic data has been overlapping between them, which is why Michael's been born with wings. But he's been clipping them in so that he can kind of fit in with like the other people on the planet. And Michael is absolutely furious with Scott for bringing so-called alien profiteers to the city and like risking the wrath of the Sunless. And Benny learns that hospital attention is now permitted only for those doing essential work. And Scott is horrified when Benny suggests kidnapping a doctor. A suggestion which goes against everything that Ursu stands for, but still they do it. So Emil, Benny and Tamika kidnap Jock, who's a doctor in a local hospital, and Jock refuses though to do anything for Errol while he's being held against his will. And Benny, because she has to make a decision here, she tells him to go, and once he's accepted it, she's set him free to make his own decision. He agrees to help Errol.
This kind of points to just a rule in their society where they almost function with like no rules, where if you give someone like an expectation that you want something from them, the Ursans will tend to not agree or go along with that unless they have freedom of choice. They'll generally make the right decision and say like, yeah, it makes sense. I would help you. You've got this injured person here, but I don't want to do it at gunpoint, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a really interesting, just different take on society that's being presented.
Yeah, you do get this exploration to the society as we continue, but also as well, I mean, if I was a doctor, I don't think I'd be wanting to work on someone at gunpoint. I'd be quite happy. Yeah. But yeah, so Benny later learns that the Sunless have killed people for leaving their post before, and so therefore Jack's probably as good as dead the moment that she removed him from the hospital. And then we've sort of focused a little bit on Emil, because Emil's only 15 and he's run away from the university to get away from the strict rules of his father's religion. And he's finding himself attracted to Scott. And he hasn't quite admitted to himself that he's gay and can't accept why he feels so upset when Scott and Tamika begin sleeping together. So.
For Emil, I was thinking quite a bit about Charlie Hunnam as the protagonist from Queer as Folk, because he was also meant to only be 15 in that miniseries, which RTD worked on with Matt Jones after this book was published. So it does make me wonder if some of the concepts or the character notes of Emil are carried forward into that show.
Yeah.
So Benny then sees a group of angry Ursulans trying to attack a band of collaborators and recognizes one of the collaborators as Jason's accomplice from the photographs that the police had shown her earlier. So Benny, Tamika, and Emil disguise themselves as drag queen entertainers and infiltrate a party for the new administration, where they perform to such hits as We Are Family. And Benny manages to get the woman's attention, who's Aranda, and this is the Sophie Aldred character in the audio version. And Aranda recognizes Benny, I think as Jason's ex, and explains that her and Jason were acting as negotiators for the non-diplomatic Sunless, and that the Sunless's world was looted by corporations shortly before the most recent galactic war, and they've been trying to reclaim all the artifacts stolen from the Sunless's world ever since. So Jason fled with the figurine that he had showed Benny earlier when he realizes that the Sunless were trying to reassemble an ancient weapon. And Aranda claims to feel no guilt about her decision to collaborate, because before the Sunless came, the Ursulans were free to give up any job they didn't like doing anymore, and the society was about to collapse on its own accord anyway, because vital jobs such as like sewer maintenance and paving the roads were going unfinished. So Aranda turns Benny, Tamika, and Emil over to the Sunless, but they manage to escape, stealing a Sunless patrol car So there's a big chase sequence with a bunch of different like off-road cars and mounted with guns firing at each other. The three of them manage to escape and survive.
Yeah, I mean, that sequence you were spoken about, it feels very James Bondy, and it feels like it's wandered in from another book.
I was thinking of like just different Star Wars sequences, like it felt like something out of like Star Wars Rebels or something.
Yeah, is it GoldenEye where they're going through the tank in?
Oh yeah.
It felt very much like that.
It just come out like the year
yes,
prior.
Yes, it had.
Right?
Yeah. And I don't know. For me, I kind of thought, oh, I could have done without this. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have preferred a kind of like a quick or like a stealthy escape or something like that. Anyway, right. So, but yeah, when they get back to Michael's apartment, they find that the Sunless have been there, and Jock and Errol are both dead, and Scott and Michael are missing. Benny takes Tamika and Emil to shelter in what used to be the local university, vowing to get them home safely. And while there, she uses the computers to translate the inscriptions on the female figurine. And the inscriptions seem to claim that the visionaries will give themselves up to release power beyond the sun. At this point, Michael finds them and claims that Scott is being held captive in the spaceport. But when he leads them to the Sunless ship, they discover too late that he's collaborating and has turned them all in. And Aranda is waiting for them. And she threatens to expel Tamika and Emil into space if Benny doesn't hand over the figurine, the visionary. And I mean, that's a really tense sequence. Because the ships are the ship is in space, and they are holding on for their life as they're being kind of like dragged out into it. So Benny's got absolutely no choice. She decides to hand over the figurine, but Aranda was going to expel them anyway until Michael stops her. And furious, Aranda locks him up with the others, where he defends his choice to betray them. It's because at least 14 other people in his building, frightened their presence would bring the Sunless down on them, had already done so. And by turning them in himself, Michael hoped to convince Aranda, who is his sister and Scott's sister as well, to set Scott free.
Yeah, they're all part of that same pot of 10, yeah.
Yeah, and this I felt, it kind of mollified me a bit on the whole kind of like James Bond tank thing. Because like for that I kind of thought, oh, there's no peril here. Because at no point was I, when they were kind of going around in the patrol car, was I concerned that anything bad was going to happen to Benny, Emil and Tamika. But then when you've got Michael explaining that, look, he'd almost had to turn him in because everybody else had, and it was the only way that he could try to kind of like help Scott. And I was like, yeah, this feels like that kind of world more.
Yeah, and I think here too, where you have like turning in members of your family sort of thing, where you have the strong allusions to, like you were saying, the Taliban and some of those other organizations tearing families apart sort of deal, and turning in your neighbors, and
Yeah, because like East Germany as well, I suspect, would have probably been filtering in the background.
Yeah. And so then Benny and her two students are taken to the Sunless's homeworld. So they're off the Ursa planet now. And it's a barren land, barely heated by a swollen red star. So it's the crystal-like planet that we see depicted on the cover. And all the inhabitants of that world are forced to scratch out a harsh existence in the wilderness. And the Sunless train themselves to be emotionless and ruthless from birth. And Benny and her friends are thrown into a pit and forgotten. But then the Sunless, who have dismissed them as a threat, fail to realize that Benny and her friends can work together. And they climb out of this pit or holding cell by standing on each other's shoulders. And in another pit, they find Jason and Scott, both of whom have been beaten half to death. And Benny still doesn't believe that an ancient civilization would just leave a powerful weapon lying around in case its descendants were ever in trouble. Apparently she hasn't heard of the Time Lords. They've got the moment and all sorts of weapons like that.
Stuff in books she's been in.
Yeah, she's got plenty of evidence to the contrary. But Scott and Michael reveal that every one of their family has a recurring dream of falling into a glowing red light and releasing a devastating burst of energy. So it's kind of like a vision that all the members of this pod are haunted with. And they use Tamika's makeup to disguise themselves as the Pale Sunless by whiting out their faces and blacking their teeth, so they looks like they've whittled their teeth into points.
Yeah, because she's a goth, isn't she? She's
Yeah.
a bit of a space goth, is Tamika.
Yeah. They follow Iranda to the location of the Beyond the Sun weapon, but then they're discovered in the Crystal Caves, and both Scott and Jason are recaptured.
So Benny and Michael, sort of fleeing, meet Dr. Kitzinger, who we've kind of like alluded to earlier. So she's an Earthland midwife who was kidnapped when the blooms were removed from Ursu, and she's the person that we've throughout the book we've been hearing some of her kind of like dealings with the Sunless in that conversations with the enemy section.
And she's played by Annika Wills in the audio version.
Yeah, and I think she's sort of said to be like in her like 50s or so, isn't she? I think.
Mm-hmm.
And like the blooms were in fact a part of the weapon before the corporation stole them, and all the time the Earthlands thought that they were building this free society with no family ties. It was based upon the looting of the Sunless's homeworld. And Iranda's brother Nicholas, who's another collaborator, has been forcing Kitzinger to work against her will. And over the past year, Kitzinger has been reduced from a free woman to a cowed servant. And it's quite chilling, like throughout the conversations with the enemy bits, really just seeing that over time.
Yeah, kind of her defiance being whittled away. Or
Yeah.
resistance.
But she's got enough will to kind of like run away with the male figurine once she realised that she was working on a weapon of mass destruction. And Iranda is kind of threatening to kill Jason. And so Benny's got no choice but to surrender herself on the male figurine. And so Nicholas and Iranda place the two figures in the place that have been prepared for them, believing that the visionaries will give up their power. But instead, two grave-like openings appear in the crystalline base of the weapon. And Benny has kind of like guessed the truth, which is that the figurines were only representatives of the true visionaries, Nicholas and Iranda themselves, who were generated by the blooms to serve as part of the weapon. And so their villainous behaviour has been a sham to cover up the fact that they're acting as a result of biological imperatives, which is interesting.
Yeah, and it also explains why there were 10 in their pod and not 8, because you have these 2 extra ones that were grown for this exact purpose.
Yeah.
And when confronted with this, Nicholas, who's drunk all the Kool-Aid by this point, he accepts his fate and steps into his grave, and he kind of like, almost in like a Han Solo frozen in carbonite.
Yeah.
Or, kind of that sort of effect where he's turned into like a stone slab. And Iranda's, protesting, and she's like, well, why can't someone else from my pod step into this? And Benny just pushes her into the other grave, which, them being absorbed activates the machine. And just as Benny suspected, it's not a weapon at all. The inscriptions were mistranslated. And instead of releasing power beyond the sun, it in fact powers the sun beyond its natural life. So, much like Gallifrey Falls no more, word order is important.
Yes.
Translating. So light and heat return to the Sunless's world when the star is restored to its youth. So they kind of look up in the sky and they see this red supergiant is now just a yellow star again, kind of burning, similar to how our sun would. And while the Sunless remain unsure how to react to this development, Benny and her friends escape in Iranda's ship. And now that the Sunless's world has been restored to them, the narrative ends with saying that the Sunless will easily be driven from Ursu. And I don't know how true that is.
No, I'm not sure.
And,
seem to be quite entrenched.
Yeah. And without the blooms, the Ursulines will be forced to rejoin galactic society, which they had previously shunned. And I suppose learn how to reproduce a non-pod-like way. And at this point, Tamika discovers that she's pregnant with Scott's child, and Emil admits to himself that he's gay. And Jason and Benny are not reconciled at the end of this story, but Benny's come to a deeper understanding of who she is. And recalling the Doctor's mantra in Time Worm Revelations and various Terrence Dix quotes, Benny mentions that she may be capable of cruelty and cowardice, but though surrounded by violence, she endeavors to remain a woman of peace. And that's Beyond the Sun.
Yeah, it's beyond it.
Tamika and Emil reappear a few books later in the novel Deadfall by Gary Russell, and Emil would go on to appear in a further 4 Benny novels.
Yeah.
So he's very much a recurring character.
So, what did you make of this?
Well, it to me it felt very kind of the time, like grounded in the late 90s, with the 15-year-old gay protagonist, and how similar he is to the Queer as Folk character. I thought the world building was really well done in it. So like details like how at the dig site at the opening there's kind of an old town with a few restaurants that caters to the professors who are there, supervising their students on a dig, and how Benny tries to avoid that. So I feel like the author did a really good job of adding little character moments like that convey quite a bit, even though they're very kind of brief. Yeah, kind of a mixed bag, though. There's some plot points that felt unresolved at the end, and I don't know how much of that, is going to carry over to future novels. But what did you make of it?
I remember when I first read this, which was not long after it had been published, I remember greatly enjoying it. And I think I did still enjoy it. For me, it's a characterization. There's these great character moments, and it is the sense of that world, as you say, because it really does evoke the planet of Ursu. I understand that it might be quite similar to an Ursula Le Guin novel. But I haven't read it. So I can't remember which one. I think it might be The Dispossessed. I might be wrong.
I wonder if that's why he named the planet Ursuline or Ursula.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a nod. Yeah, it was a very vivid world, which I think was why that big car chase sequence just kind of just threw me out for a bit, because I was like, no, I was very much, I felt very much there.
It's interesting you say that, because I thought the car chase was very much needed, because I felt like it needed like a big action set piece kind of at that point in the novel. If it didn't have that, I'd almost think like it was missing something.
Yeah.
I guess I might have looked at that a little bit differently.
Yeah.
It does very much recall GoldenEye for sure.
Yeah. I think we could have had an action sequence. I just think a different one. So one in which they're hiding from the Sunless or something. Because this just felt, because I was just wanted to think, surely there's going to be consequences to this. And there are, because Errol and Jock are killed. But I was expecting consequences kind of like earlier. I was like, oh, okay, we're suddenly becoming this book. There is a great thing. I just want to just read a little bit from one thing that Michael says when he says, we're in the middle of an invasion here, and you stroll around the city like tourists. You may as well have worn a pink neon sign saying, "Profiteer, arrest me." And you think your individualism is heroic, but your heroics over your dying friend just got Jock killed. And there is this kind of like this angry pragmatism to the book, which I'll remember that, as well as that all of the Bloom stuff, which is very evocative.
Yeah, and it may just be that some of these recurring themes that Matt Jones is dealing with are timeless, and that they keep, timeless might be the wrong word, but that keep coming up again and again, like the allusions we were saying to Afghanistan, and especially, were very strong, and would have been at the same time that he had written this originally, with the Taliban coming to power and stuff then. A couple of other just kind of notes about it. I can't help but wonder if this influenced the television series Sense8 in some way, where you have, the interconnected pods of 8 people, all different races, genders, species, all sharing the same dreams and visions. The Wachowski sisters are very much Doctor Who fans, so I can't help but wonder if this may have been like the seed of like an idea.
Wow. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've not watched Sense8, so that's interesting. Yeah.
A couple of other tie-ins to earlier novels. So this is the first time since Eternity Weeps where Benny has encountered Jason, and that was the novel, like you mentioned, by Jim Mortimer, where they got divorced.
Yeah.
And then we also get several Ulians appear, which they're a species from Original Sin, another new adventure novel. And then Doran, who's the student from Oh No It Isn't that Benny sleeps with, in that novel, he gets a few mentions in this book. And I should mention, too, that for readers who are reading this, there are a couple of different slurs in this book that the LGBT community might take issue with. They were both used by one particular character against another, though, so it very much seems like it's framed in the immaturity of that character. Tamika is the one who uses those directed at Emil. But yeah, a part of it did feel a tad juvenile at points with all the different excrement jokes and stuff. And I guess it's kind of a shame that Matt Jones hasn't written more Doctor Who related novels. Yeah. This does make me want to read Bad Therapy, which I should note has not been covered by the previous iteration of the show. But it kind of makes me want to read more from him. But I think we just have the only that one other. Although you said he wrote a short story, like a short trip, maybe too.
I'm sure he has, but I couldn't. Because I think that we've read him before, and I couldn't find a reference to it.
He wrote Mother's Little Helper in Short Trips, which was a second Doctor story with the kid on the pier. That one.
But yeah, I mean, because I think he's a very good writer. Certainly, I found it was very well written as a book, and also, whilst there were plot holes, particularly with the ending, but I mean, I think like the ideas, like the society, did seem well thought out. So,
how would you score this one?
How do I score this? So I think I'm gonna give this one an 8.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I did enjoy it. I was surprised by it because there were various things I don't remember having happened when I first read it. I think in my head I confused this in my mind with some bits that happened in Lawrence Miles's book Down, because there was a sequence that I was thinking was going to happen that didn't. But yeah, I think it's the characterization, and it's just there is just a mood about this, and for me, I thought it was a very compelling book. So, how about you? I suspect possibly not the same.
Not too far off.
Okay.
For me, I still have some outstanding questions, like what actually happened to all the remaining sunless, and will Ursa free itself from its occupying force? But for me, I would say a 7 out of 10. I did enjoy it. It was well written. It had some good character moments, some interesting characters that return in the later Benny books. But I guess for me, I was hoping for a story with a little more awe and wonder and less cruelty and harsh brutality.
Yeah. Yes.
And, having read this back to back with Dragon's Wrath, there were some similarities to the book that immediately preceded it. So here you have two halves of an ancient artifact, as well as like a decoy version that's made at one point.
Oh.
And in the previous book, you have 3 versions of a mythical dragon statue and 2 decoys. And so I just wonder if that's a thread in some of the early Bennies, where it seems to be more rooted in that Indiana Jones vibe. And Benny even offhandedly references the lack of fortune and glory in her chosen profession in this book. I am happy, though, that Scott and Emil finally hooked up at the end of the book. I was like, yay.
Yeah.
And also, what's going to happen with Tamika now that she's pregnant student at 18 or whatever? First year in college. So having survived this, she's going to have to deal with that.
Yeah.
But and another enjoyable entry in the Benny series, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that every single Benny book is absolutely amazing, but yeah, I think we've been well served so far, I think, by the Benny books. So right, okay. So I think this is where we listen to feedback, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So this month we have a message from Kumatha Lane about our review of Assimilation Squared.
Okay.
And Kumatha, she wrote in saying that she loved the Assimilation Squared crossover, and she's very fond of these stories, and she included a photo of a piece of framed original artwork hanging on her wall that she bought a few years back. And it's the scene where the Doctor, played by Matt Smith, meets Guinan, played by Whoopi Goldberg, in 10 Forward. And she says she doesn't own any other pieces of original art, but she wanted this one badly. And so thank you very much for the kind words and photo, Kumatha. And apologies, we disagree slightly on the quality of the artwork in some parts. But
yeah, I mean, there was some good bits. But,
yeah.
Yes.
I think the Star Trek likenesses were probably more on point than the Doctor Who ones.
I think so.
But if you'd like to get in touch with us, please email us at andwbcpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to read your letter out on the show. How about on the Facebook side?
So we heard from, I'm sorry if I slightly butcher your name here, we heard from Asita Vada, who was asking where you could buy New Adventures books, and so I suggested in the UK I would try places like eBay and Amazon, but also bookshop.org, but I couldn't actually find any New Adventures on bookshop.org. And you came up with some American suggestions.
Yeah, so Who North America, which is a Doctor Who retailer out of Indiana, has a selection of out-of-print new and missing adventures, as does Alien Entertainment, which is the Doctor Who store online. They also run Chicago TARDIS, and they have a pretty big back catalog as well. But I would also recommend, particularly if you're stateside, to try Abe Books, so abebooks.com, where you can search. It's like a catalog of used booksellers across the country. And you can often get some good deals, especially on rare titles that way.
Yeah, if you Google Doctor Who New Adventures, you might be able to find some things in your own country. And there was as well, I'm trying to blank it, but yeah, I'm sure that there are better places to look in the UK than Amazon and eBay, but I couldn't think of them. But yes, but do please try and support a kind of like a small local business if you can.
Yeah.
But yes, and it turned out that Asita Vada is in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and apologies if I've misread that. I think I just have. But yeah, so good luck, Asita, in your search, and I hope you can find the new adventures that you're looking for. So, yeah. But yeah, so what's been happening on Twitter?
So all last month on Twitter, we've been posting examples of the Star Trek and Doctor Who crossovers and little excerpts from some of the books we had mentioned. And it turns out Diane Duane herself liked our tweet about the Fourth Doctor cameo that she had written in her Star Trek original series book, My Enemy and My Ally. So thanks, Diane, for doing that. And also on Twitter, we heard from DJ Alpha T, who says he was deeply unimpressed with this comic, and he thinks the two properties of Star Trek and Doctor Who are incompatible. And goes on to say that he thought much of the artwork was copied from promo shots, and he guesses that his dislike for Star Trek didn't help either. So apologies that was not to your liking, DJ Alpha T. But we also heard from Red Laser 4000, who tweeted they were surprised to learn that Steve Lyons and Chris Howarth, in addition to writing the completely useless Doctor Who encyclopedia, also wrote the completely useless and unauthorized Star Trek encyclopedia. Red Laser decided to get a used copy on eBay and has since informed us that the Star Trek guide has arrived and is equally fun and as good of a read as the Doctor Who version.
Cool.
And then finally we heard from Chris in New York City, aka Sesam's Bookcase on Twitter, who recommends the book Asylum by Peter Darville Evans. Chris mentioned that it would make a great book club selection, and it's the first Doctor Who book they've read where they want to nerd out with others who have read it. And it appears to be a past Doctor adventure featuring the Fourth Doctor and Nyssa, which is kind of an unusual companion combo for a book.
There's a twist.
Oh, I haven't read it, so...
No, yeah. I haven't read it either, but I know that there is, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I can tell you that's not what I've picked for next month.
No. Okay, I think we've now reached the stage of proceedings where you tell us what we are going to be doing next month for October. Anything spooky?
We're going to get a little spooky and twisted.
Ooh.
Halloween is right around the corner, so we're going to be spending some time with Missy as we read the short story anthology, The Missy Chronicles, which originally came out in February of 2018 and features 6 different short stories.
Very good.
Yeah, including one by Jack Rayner, and Cavan Scott, and Paul Mars, and some other familiar names as well. So
great.
Looking forward to that.
Brilliant. Yeah, new Missy material. Does sound good. I think I might actually have a physical copy of that, but I've not read it. But yeah,
excellent.
So yeah, brilliant. I am looking forward to that. That would be great.
So until next month, this has been Matt in Minnesota,
Chris in South London. Happy reading and stay safe.
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song Doctor Who Theme Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. Help other listeners to find us by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
I ran just over 14 miles today.
Oh, jeez. You must be exhausted.
Yes, so my legs are slightly tired. Right, yes, I'm good. How are you? Are you all right?
Yeah, doing well.
Might need to every now and again readjust my legs.
Okay.
So, I'll try to keep that to a minimum.